This is a lateral lunge with an eversion bias. Now you want a slant board that's about 15 degrees incline. 10 degrees could work as well. Now if you don't have something like this, you could get creative at the gym and use a plate on some other plates. You'll have to get creative on that one. So you're going to set up in a double wide stance, roughly. Now this stance width will vary depending on how much mobility you own. So if you're somebody that's rather stiff, you're likely going to go with a bit of a wider stance. As you're able to get a bit more mobility, you'll be able to go narrower here into this position. So I'm going to start about here in this setup. You're going to hold on to the weight in the opposite hand that you're going to shift into. So in this case, I'm going to be shifting into this right hip. I'm going to hold the weight, whether that's a kettlebell or a dumbbell, in my left hand. Now, there's some foot pressures that I want you to focus on here, and that's that medial arch of both feet. So what I mean by that is the base of the big toe and the inner part of the heel. Now, it doesn't mean that we lose contact with that pinky base of the big toe, but that's where we're really referencing in our foot and pushing through. So as I push through this left medial arch, I'm going to shift into that right medial arch, base of the big toe, base of the heel. Now when I hold on to that weight, I'm reaching for that big toe. Now notice here that my hip is either in line with my foot or slightly outside, and my knee is inside of that. So knee is pretty much below the foot here, but do note that my hip is slightly outside. That's what we're looking for here. So I'm going to hold on to my weight. I start at that top position. I'm nice and stacked here. I'm going to reach that kettlebell by pushing away through that medial arch into my other foot. Kettlebell reaches for that big toe, push down through the ground, in through that medial arch as I come up. Pay attention to the hip and the knee. My nose is also straight ahead over that toe. It's just my hip that's slightly out. Push through the ground to come up. Common mistake here that you'll see is a lot of times people will just kind of drive that knee out excessively. They'll also kind of, instead of getting into that hip, they'll just spin out of it. So make sure that we start with a little bit of a soft knee so that way you're able to push through that leg to get into the other hip. Now, if you want to load this drill even heavier, we can use a bilateral offset load. So I still want that heavier weight, in this case in my left hand if I'm shifting into that right hip, but I'm going to hold on to a lighter kettlebell in my other hand. So it'll look like this. This other kettlebell is just hanging out there. I'm still reaching that contralateral load into that big toe. Push through the ground to come up.